The hospital loomed large and silent under the pale glow of a full moon. It was an old structure, its gray stone walls weathered by decades of use. Inside, the sterile smell of disinfectant clung to the air, mixing with the faint hum of flickering fluorescent lights. Samantha, a young nursing intern, walked the empty halls on her first night shift, the soles of her shoes echoing softly against the linoleum floor. She'd been warned by the other nurses to keep to the main areas during her shift. "Don't wander too far," one of them had said with a knowing look. "Especially near Ward C." "What's in Ward C?" Samantha had asked, but the nurse only shook her head. "Just stay away." Curiosity had always been Samantha's weakness. As the night wore on and the monotony of filing reports set in, her thoughts drifted toward C. The idea of exploring its forbidden halls intrigued her, even as a sliver of unease crept up her spine. It was nearly 3 a.m. when Samantha decided to take a quick break. The hospital was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that felt alive, pressing against her ears. She walked toward the dimly lit corridor leading toward C. The further she went, the more oppressive the air became, as though the walls were closing in. The ward was abandoned, its doors sealed shut, but through the narrow glass windows of each door, she could see dark, empty rooms. The beds were covered with white sheets, and the monitors were turned off, their screens blank. She almost turned back, but a faint sound stopped her. A soft rustling, like fabric brushing against the floor. She froze, her heart pounding. "Hello," she called, her voice trembling slightly. There was no answer. She took a hesitant step forward, peering through the window of the last room in the hallway. Something moved in the shadows. A figure sitting upright on the bed. Samantha's breath caught. Patients weren't supposed to be in Ward C. She reached for the door handle, her professional instincts overriding her fear. Inside, the room was cold, colder than it should have been. The figure was a woman, her thin frame barely visible under the pale hospital gown. Her head hung low, dark hair cascading over her face. Her wrist was adorned with a bright red wristband. "Ma'am," Samantha said, her voice soft but steady. "Are you supposed to be here?" The woman didn't respond. Samantha stepped closer, noticing the faint outline of bones beneath the woman's gaunt skin. She looked fragile, almost unreal. Samantha reached out a hand, intending to touch her shoulder, but the moment her fingers brushed the fabric of the gown, the woman's head snapped up. Her face was a hollow nightmare. Deep, sunken eyes stared blankly, her mouth open in a silent scream. The red wristband seemed to glow against her lifeless skin. Samantha stumbled back, her breath caught in her throat. The woman didn't move, but her blank eyes followed Samantha's every motion. Then, in a voice that was barely a whisper but seemed to echo in the room, the woman said, "Why are you here?" Terrified, Samantha bolted from the room, her footsteps pounding down the hall. She didn't stop running until she reached the nurse's station. She was gasping for air when she found Ellen, the night supervisor, sipping coffee and scrolling through a clipboard. There's someone in Ward C," Samantha stammered. "A woman with a red wristband." Ellen's expression darkened instantly. She set down her coffee, her hands trembling slightly. "You didn't go in there, did you?" I thought someone needed help," Samantha replied, still struggling to catch her breath. Her face. Ellen grabbed Samantha's arm, her grip firm. "You need to listen carefully," she said, her voice low but urgent. "The red wristband is not for patients. It's for the dead." "What are you talking about?" Samantha asked, her stomach sinking. "Years ago," Ellen explained, "we used red wristbands to identify deceased patients before they were taken to the morgue. It was a simple system, but it caused problems. Patients started reporting seeing people wearing red wristbands walking the halls. Staff heard voices, saw things that shouldn't have been there. Samantha's blood ran cold. So, what was she? Ellen didn't answer. Instead, she glanced over Samantha's shoulder, her face going pale. Samantha turned slowly, her heart hammering. In the reflection of the glass cabinet behind her, the woman from Ward C stood in the hallway, her head tilted, her eyes locked on Samantha. The red wristband gleamed in the dim light. Samantha whipped around, but the hallway was empty. When she turned back to Ellen, the older nurse shook her head. She's marked you now. Whatever you do, don't go back to Ward C, don't let her in. The rest of the shift passed in a haze of fear. Samantha stayed close to the nurse's station, her eyes darting to every shadow and every flicker of light. She wanted to believe Ellen was wrong, that her mind was playing tricks on her. But when her shift ended and she went to grab her belongings from the locker room, she found something she couldn't explain. Hanging from the lock on her locker was a single red wristband.